So there was this topic that I was thinking of this morning that's popped into my head at different times. And generally the question is, do you have ADHD or blank? I'm going to start it off with a weird place in my thinking with it. So I like to read old explorer books, like not fictional ones, like the actual books by whatever explorer went to Africa in like 17 something, and then like they have their book they wrote back then about what they did. And you can get them all for free on Project Gutenberg when they do exist. And one of the topics that comes up in that, it's the same in South America, in Africa. It's this language will be used by whoever they are, the colonizers. Now, just for the record, I'm reading the books not by colonizers, but explorers. They're going where no white people are at the time. So, like, they're not colonizing shit. They're like trying to find a lake or find, something, or, the lost treasure of Z or whatever. But, um, they'll talk about the locals and generally like a laziness, right? So I think it was in a book on somewhere in South America. I'm forgetting, but it was like talking about the lack of work ethic of the locals. And I know like there was this discussion with the monster, the King Leopold. Oh, of your current home, of the Belgian king who was just an absolute monster in the Congo.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And people would write about, oh, they are not the hardest working people. And you're like, yeah, probably because before you came along, they were like, you know, living a pretty decent life. And you're asking them to get rubber or cut down trees or, poach ivory or build railroads or whatever shitty job it was. Like, yeah, I would be pretty miserable too. And I don't think I would really want to do any of that. No wonder, like, it was as if the people not wanting to turn into these industrial machines were looked down upon, like, oh, they have a low work ethic. And you're like, yeah. But the thing with that, though, that's actually, I started thinking about the British Commonwealth in general and like the Protestant world. We have this thing of like the farmer's work ethic, right? We really take pride in work hard. Like you get up early, you do a good day's work, you work hard. This is very much built in the culture. It's a point of intense pride, right? And some other cultures have it, but I do think like the British Protestant is like the extreme, right? You compare it to Catholic countries. Catholic countries much more balanced on enjoying life, right? And and in this book as well, The Wager, they were talking, if I'm remembering right, these books all kind of blur together, but they were talking about uh some of the local ways of being, right? The indigenous people's ways of being, who were like, by all accounts, like so loving and kind and like really the nicest people. And they're like, yeah, but the work ethic comes up. And what it is, though, is this industrialness that creates states of very unnatural stress, very unnatural work hours, very unnatural ways of living. And that was a more extreme for sure. Like we have it much better than, 17th or 18th in England. But yeah, that everyone is victims of that basically civilization, of that Protestant work ethic, of these ways of being. Around the world right now, there's countries that do very well in this industrialized model, right? The Germans, in theory, the British, Americans, they do very well in this world. And certain countries, Brazil and Argentina come to mind, right? Um, Parts of Africa, lots of places don't do that well in that model, right? And I always think like, are they just the ones who've like kept their souls alive more? Like they're like, nah, like I don't need like a new LCD, like a new flat screen TV to go to that like prison cell for 50 hours a week. The world is trying to force this model. And if you read like reports on, the World Economic Forum or they'll be like, yeah, these countries just can't seem to get it together. And you're like, yeah, but maybe that's because they're like, do I want to become what's on the other end of this? Like the most industrialized countries on earth? Is that really who I want to be? And I always think of it like with these books when they're describing like these people they insist on singing while they work and they want to constantly take breaks and talk to one another. And you're like, it's almost like they're not being ironic. And you read it and you're like, It's like they want to be humans. And the British are like, we don't understand their desire to be humans. And I think about that with like sometimes when people bring up ADHD, that ADHD is completely like, I at times take medication for ADHD. I have a decent amount of expertise in it. I treat my own ADHD in many different ways. Uh, and it is very much something that affects a certain group of people. Many, many times when people bring up ADHD, or they bring up things that they want my advice on in general, like as an ENFP. So they'll be, I really need your help doing this work. And I'll be like, what is the work? And they lay it out. And I just think of those people in the jungle being like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to sing and I want to dance and I want to like, we had food. There were monkeys and there were pineapples and there were came in, we were eating, we were fine. And yeah, it's like, maybe you do have ADHD, maybe you don't, but the thing you're trying to do just sucks. And maybe you're just one of those people who haven't killed your soul so much, right? And there's actually a measure of this in the Big Five personality test, which is a lot of people who know about Myers-Briggs, ENFP, they actually have taken the 16 personalities test. And I've been told that the testing on the 16 personality site is basically just testing the Big Five personality traits. And then it kind of translates it. Like, it's not actually a good test for Myers-Briggs. But anyhow, one of those things on Big Five is your conscientiousness, which is essentially measuring how much work you do. And it would probably measure your J aspect, a lot of that on the personality type, on Myers-Briggs, right? And that gets broken down into two categories. One is on organization, orderliness, they call it. I very proudly score in the lowest 1 percentile of orderliness, which is an achievement, I think, to be the least orderly of any 100, if not more, because the test doesn't go less than 1% people. The other part of it is industrialness. And industrialness, people think measures how hard you will work.
Hmm.
And so they go, oh, I have low industrialness, I don't work hard. That's not what it measures. Industrialness measures your ability to do work that you don't want to do or see the purpose in. Perfect. I got like 17% in that. Any higher, and next thing you know, you're chipping in at work every day. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Like, your ability to do work that you don't see the purpose of doing. And for those of us who are low in industrialness, first of all, give yourselves a little hand of applaud in it. Uh, is you will struggle to do work that you don't see the point in. And it's always really tough for me when someone has a question like they've been at school for 6 years doing a degree that they're not excited about and never were, but they're at the point where they need to finish like a thesis, and then they'll have the degree, but they've been trying for a year. I'm not like a deep end person who'd be like, forget it. If you don't love it, don't get the degree. Like, there's value to finishing the degree, even for your own sense of pride and everything like that. But it's going to be a grind. There's no easy answer, right? Like, you hate this thing, you made that mistake. Don't make that mistake again in the future, right? Don't take a job you're going to hate. Don't do another degree you're going to hate. And yeah, and there's many times when it just makes sense to quit a thing or just choose not to do that. Because like, if you are low on industrialness, which most ENFPs are, probably all of us are, then you're not going to do good at jobs where you have to do a lot of shit you don't like. So just don't do that job. And the funny thing is, we can crush it and quote unquote work hard when we actually are really excited about the thing we're doing. Like, my output when I'm crushing it is really high, like whether it's word count or videos I film in a day or all sorts of stuff, right? You need to really care about the thing. And so for an ENFP, you're doing the world a great disservice when you are at a job you don't like or getting bogged down by things you hate doing, because then you're not using your gifts to actually give the world whatever you're meant to be doing. And so, if you're on the fence of quitting and need a final nudge, think about the world and like you're screwing us over. Like when you're working that shitty job, not only you're punishing yourself, but you're punishing the world because you're not doing the thing that would actually benefit everyone else. And so with ADHD, it's kind of that same thing. Is there are times when it is ADHD, right? Why we have and people with ADHD actually operate and behave very differently. But if there's something you don't like doing and you don't want to do and you're only doing because you have to do and you can't do that, like that's not ADHD. That's just like you haven't been to quote one of my favorite books, you haven't been civilized to death yet. And that's the title. Civilized to Death is a book I'd recommend for everyone. Um yeah. So thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode of the ENFP show here. Goodbye.